is going to tell us some wonderful jokes. Right? She has a little caveat she wants to do. Everybody knows Barbara, right? Everybody knows Barbara. Woo! You stand in front of it and you talk into it.
You know, those of you who know me know I'm neither a stand-up comic nor a sit-down comic. So this is going to be interesting. But I like to laugh. I like to make people laugh. So I decided I'd treat you or mistreat you to a couple of my favorite jokes. This is probably my favorite. And unfortunately, there's some older people here, so it kind of spoils it because they keep saying, when you live to be as old as I am, all your jokes are fresh and new because no one ever heard them.
I thought you're 29, Barbara.
That's the fourth time around, believe me. This drunk went into a bar, and he had a little box. It was a brown box with little holes in it. And he went up to the bar, and he said to the bartender, "You know what? If you give me a drink, I will show you something spectacular." So the bartender figured, what the heck? So the guy opens the box, and he brings out a little tiny mouse and a miniature piano. And he tickles the mouse on the top of the head, and the mouse starts sitting down at the piano and plays the Star Spangled Banner. And the bartender is absolutely amazed. He says, "Boy, that's something." The guy says, "Tell you what, you give me another drink and I'll show you something even better." So the bartender figures, what the heck, it can't get any worse. So he gives the guy a shot. The guy opens the box and pulls out another little mouse. So he tickles one mouse on the top of the head and he starts playing Yankee Doodle Dandy. And he tickles the other mouse on the head and he starts singing and tap dancing. Well, the bartender's astounded. So he says, "Man, you've got a fortune there. Take this on David Letterman. This is amazing." And the drunk says, "Don't be ridiculous. They're not worth anything." And the bartender says, "Man, you're out of your mind." So he says, "Tell you what, give me $50 and you can have them both." So the bartender says, "Mister, you got a deal." So he pulls out the $50, the guy puts the mice and the piano back in the little box, and he goes off, and the man sitting next to the drunk says, "Are you out of your mind? You could make a fortune with those mice." And he says, "Ha, joke's on him. That little mouse can't sing. The other mouse is a ventriloquist."
Oh,
They get worse.
oh yeah.
An old man lost his dog. Now this dog has been his companion for 15 years. And the poor guy was heartbroken. So he went to his local parish and he said, "Father Murphy, my Rex died. Oh, my heart is broken." And Father Murphy said, "Gee, I'm sorry about the dog, but pull yourself together. It's only a dog." And Pat says, "Are you crazy? I want to have a mass said for my dog. I loved him so much." Father Murphy says, "Listen, we don't do masses for dogs, but you know, there's a new Protestant church down the block. Ask them, they might do anything." So Pat says, "Well, okay, I'll try it." And he's walking out the door. He says, "Gee, that's too bad because they put $5,000 away for the funeral." And Father Murphy says, "Wait a minute, Pat, you didn't tell me that the dog was Catholic." Oh, well. Joe was going to the cemetery to visit his mother's grave. And as he was walking in, lo and behold, prostrate over this grave was an old friend of his he hadn't seen in years. And the man is over the grave, beating the ground and saying, "Oh, why did you have to die? Why did you have to die?" And poor Joe's all upset. So he bends over and he picks up his friend Sam from the ground. He says, "Sam, oh, I'm so sorry to see you under such terrible circumstances. I'm sorry for your loss. I haven't seen you in so long. Who is that buried in the grave?" He says, "Oh, it's my wife's first husband." Okay. My mother's best friend name was Ruthie. And as many of you know, I was a nun at one time. Now you know why I'm a phone nun after these jokes, but anyway. But every time I went to visit Ruthie, she gave me two things: a treat to bring home to the girls and a joke. But she told me that no joke worked unless I used the Jewish accent. So she taught me the Jewish accents. I'm going to end with two very silly jokes. Father Murphy meets Mr. Goldberg on the street, and Mr. Goldberg and his wife had given $500 to the Catholic Church, $500 to the Protestant Church, and $500 to the synagogue. And Father Murphy says, "Oh, Mr. Goldberg, I'm so happy to see you. I was just going home to write you a thank you note. You don't know how much we appreciated your donation." So Mr. Goldberg says, "Oh, Father, I'm so happy that you like that. Tell me, what did you do with the money?" And so Father Murphy says, "Well, we built new shelves in the library. We got a lot of children's books, and we got some new urinals." And Mr. Goldberg says, "Gee, that's wonderful, but I'm going to go home and I'm going to tell my Sadie." So Mr. Goldberg goes home and he says, "Sadie, I just met that wonderful Father Murphy, and he told me they put the money to good use. He was so happy to get the money." And she says, "So Irving, tell me, what did he do?" He said, "Well, he said they built library shelves, they bought library books, and they got new urinals." And she says, "Irving, what's a urinal?" And he says, "Sadie, how do I know? I'm not Catholic." Okay. Now, this is a very dated joke, and I hope I tell it well. It comes from the 60s, but it's also one of Ruthie's jokes, and probably one of my favorites, so I hope I don't mess it up. Again, poor Mrs. Goldberg. You know what? Pat and I do the Irish jokes, so it's always Mrs. Goldberg and the Jewish jokes. Mrs. Goldberg had gone to the same resort in the Catskills for years and years, and in the 60s, the Catskills was still the place to go. And her husband had died, and she decided, okay, I'm going to go back to this resort because it's comfortable. She's there for 2 days, and she goes to the man and she says, "Listen, I can't stand this. Give me my bill. I am going home. That's it. I can't stand this place anymore." And the manager says, "Mrs. Goldberg, what's the matter?" She says, "Listen, my Irving and I, we had money for a long time, have a big house, car, jewels, everything. I don't have to brag about it. These women, they're driving me crazy. All they do is brag, 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 brag." So the manager says, "Mrs. Goldberg, don't you know what you do? Do them one better. Whatever they say, you top them." Now remember, this is in the 1960s, okay? So she says, "You sure this is going to work?" And he says, "Absolutely." So they're sitting on the porch, rocking back and forth, and the first woman says, "You know, last January we went to the Riviera. Now that is the place to go. With the beach and the sand and the Alicante, he was there. He gave a reception like you never wanted to see. The champagne flowed, the hors d'oeuvres, the buffet, and his wife, what an elegant woman. Jewels and so gorgeous." Someone says, "Oh, everybody goes to the Riviera. It's Monaco. Now, Monaco, that's the place to go. You go to the casinos, you gamble a little, and Prince Reindeer gave a reception for the Americans. Well, I have to tell you, I have never seen anything like it. They had chandeliers, they had food. You think their champagne flowed? This was vintage champagne, and oh, that Princess Grace. She's still an elegant woman, just like an actress." So Mrs. Goldberg was really getting upset, and she says, "The Riviera, Monaco, everybody goes there. But my baby, he took me to Rome. Now, Rome is the place to go. We visited the catacombs, we visited the museums, and then we had an audience with the Pope. Now that's a gentleman, but her I could not stand." The end of my joke.